Hey guys, ZenAku here with just a quick video that I thought I'd make about my journey in the Quake Pro League so far, basically since I've started to where I am now. And it's funny because I just like looked up some statistics of when I first started, and it's actually like maybe it's not the right way to look at it, but I think it's actually kind of pathetic, but it's kind of funny to see. I mean, when I first joined the Quake Pro League in Season 1, Stage 2. Um, where I beat Janik to qualify. In stage 3, I won 5 maps out of 8 series with no series one. And then in stage 3 finals, I came 13th to 16th. And then in stage 4 of the season one, I won 8 maps. Sorry, 8 maps and 2 series, and I came 17th to 20th. And that was when you only had to play um, 8 players instead of 9, but still. And I think it's just so interesting to see of like where I've come since then and kind of what I've done differently or all the things I've done right and all the things I've done wrong. So maybe it's interesting for you guys, or maybe if you're like wanting to improve, I think it's kind of um, something to like just like reflect on, which is kind of nice. So basically, I've set this video up into the 3 sections, which is basically practice, mindset, and goal setting. I think those are the when we're talking about Quake and we're talking about improving at something. I think that um, those are the 3 fundamental things to really start on and to improve on. So I'll just get straight into it. Like the first thing with practice, what did I do right? Well, I played a lot. Um, and I think that if you're wanting to get better at something, start there. Because, like, I know it sounds kind of obvious, but you'd be surprised, like, how many times I see people just, like, wanting to improve and then, like, not play the game. Uh, Start there. Um, and the next point I had, which is like, made sure to always push myself to play better, um, and and this is the most important one, play better players as much as possible. Because the thing is, like, it's really an interesting thing. I don't know if for some reason, mentally for me, I kind of like enjoy playing better players because it's like, at the end of the day, they're like showing me how to get better. They're showing me like what I'm doing wrong, because I'll just like constantly die, or they'll just show me the boundary. They'll show me the extremes of where I need to go. Because if you always play people your level or people below you, and you're always winning games, you're not going to get very far. Sure, it feels like satisfying in a sense, like you feel like you're winning, and it kind of gives you this false sense of like you're doing really good. And I think actually that is like a good part of like improving yourself, to actually have a good sense of confidence there. But you do need to lose. Well, you don't need to lose, but the more you lose, like I said, what you're looking for specifically is they need to show you how hard it can be pushed. Because like every time that they're going to show you how hard it's going to be pushed, you're going to like also push that. You're going to see how you can use your strengths, like whether it's like a really strong LG, really strong movement, or really good rail. How are you going to like create an advantage in situations where someone else has like is extremely much better than you. I mean, I even like one example, which is like I love to always remember, is like I remember playing Kilson on Ruins of Sarnath, and I remember thinking to myself, I don't even know what's going on in this game because he's like constantly hitting these angles, and I'm trying to establish like why is he hitting these angles, or why how is that, why is that happening? And once you like keep in mind that when you're improving at something, it's the specifics. Um, Play a lot, get better in the macro sense, like just have a good flow to the game. But you have to see exactly what's happening because, like, um, that's another thing I didn't put in my notes. But like, the difference between like a really good player and a pro player is not much. Really, it's not much. It's just like a small decision to like do something instead of something else, whether it's like to go here or to go there and actually hit the damage, or like to avoid damage, right? Um, and so continue on, kind of rambled there for a bit. What did I do wrong? I played too much. I think it's kind of ironic because it's like I just said I played a lot, and that was actually a good thing. But funnily enough, when you play too much, you can also mess that up because like playing too much, it's I watched like a documentary recently about like athletes, and like there's this like really nice quote that I heard, which is, um, you know, everyone always has like at a professional level, everyone has the skill set. The only difference though is like professional athletes that are able to manage their rest and being able to like constantly increase their peak, right? It's like how much energy can I expend at the same time be able to rest so that I can expend it at the same level again. So you're always pushing the highest boundaries. If you always play too much and then you're playing at 80%, to some extent actually there is some benefit there, but we're really looking to like in professional games, people are only willing about like 5-10% margins in terms of like how they're able to kill you in certain decisions. So it's really funny that this little fact is like enough to make you not win or lose. Like you really have to always be playing at your peak. And well, how are you going to play your peak? Well, that comes to mindset, and we'll talk about playing too much. Um, so another thing, I didn't mean to just keep writing things that I did wrong, but I think it's kind of interesting, like just because I've been thinking about it lately. Um, so another thing that I didn't do right was like I didn't tend. Well, I wrote human needs, but it's more like understanding like the psychology of people and like I was playing the game because I wanted to get better, but then you have to ask yourself like, why do you really want to get better? It's like you're kind of developing a certain lifestyle and a certain like way of living because this is life in a sense. Like you have to really enjoy it because if you're gonna get really good and not enjoy it, it's not gonna be fun. Anyway, and the things that I didn't really do because I was so obsessed with winning, you have to ask yourself why I was really obsessed. Um, is I wasn't really having much fun. I was only practicing all the time. I didn't really do many other things. I only played the game, and I wasn't being very social. Now, granted, I actually did try to look for these things, but being coronavirus and such like this, it wasn't really available. Um, and other didn't really necessarily, even though necessarily not available, you need to like find a way to make it available to you. You can't just like forever be in this space. Um, and the other thing that I didn't do right, which was like, um, which I think this point could be really hopped on for a lot of people, is you have to develop into the meta. So, for example, when I first started when I first started playing in the league, I didn't really understand champion selection. I just kind of like picked. I just picked what I thought was right, and maybe at this point I just didn't see enough. You really have to like no, you have to like see all the different variations and why those variations are good. And what variations will those work in like different like ping setups, like high ping, low ping, like stuff like this. Um, and I would just pick Scalabera because I kind of like the champ, but I don't think it's the right thing to do in hindsight. Now it's fucking amazing because they change the spawns, but if you're really wanting to like play the game, but every aspect of the game, it's like human psychology, it's the fundamentals, and this other aspect which is like the champion selection, and it's like why is it good, why is it bad, and you just have to kind of develop a sense for why it is. It's so funny because there are some champion setups where you'd think like I don't know, this champion should dominate another one, but because of the way the player plays it and understands how his opponent is not very good at that, he's able to utilize that champion to actually win the series, right? Um, so it's very niche topics. I would say like go with your instinct, but at the same time, like you develop instinct by having hours in the game, seeing it, and more importantly, I think on this point is like to mentally justify it. Like a large part of the game is like mental confidence. It's like even if this is actually funny, even if you did something wrong, if you mentally believe that it's right, you actually have a higher chance of it being successful, even though it's like maybe not necessarily the right thing to do because you believed it so much. And so I think that's like a really important part in like understanding how to win in Quake or just like uh, these type of like perhaps any area of your life. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling a bit, but like you have to be even if it's the wrong thing. I like to say it's like even if you fail with confidence. You're going to like at least try to believe what it is of what you think is right, and then if it's not right, so like adjust. Just mentally believe it, adjust. Mentally believe, adjust, and you're constantly just like keep getting better there. Okay, love to talk. Mindset. What did I do right? So with my mindset, I set the bar as high as I can go. I like to always like. I think, guys, if you live life, at least for me, like if you're doing anything, you have to put. If there's like, you have to be the best. I don't know. Maybe it's like otherwise you're not trying to like get the most out of yourself. Um, there's like kind of things that come with that, and we'll talk about like how that can actually kind of be a negative thing at times. Um, when you're playing the game, every time when you go into each map, you have a plan of what's going to happen. You have an expectation of what's going to happen between the interaction between the champions. What particular thing is my opponent good at, and like um, how can I like you see, yeah, the interactions between the different champions, and like how can I use my advantage of like what I'm good at, what he's not very good at, and also what he's good at, and how I'm going to avoid and not give him the opportunities to do that. Sometimes it might sound very specific, but the thing is, like, because of how fast paced Quake can be, you're not constantly thinking about this in the game. But the more that you're at least of like aware of it, the more times you're giving yourself like the chance to passively know these opportunities, your brain, well, you'd hope to God it does. It's like slowly picking up these like subtle differences. If my opponent, like I don't know, I had this image in my head maxed up, mother this this dude hits a lot of rails. So well, I'm not gonna give him opportunities to do that, or maybe I'm gonna give him a chance to like I'm going to stop him from doing that, right? Um, okay, next one, believing that each series is winnable. This is an interesting one because you're gonna play people that are like exceptionally better than you, and sometimes there's even this element of like um you know the example I like to use is like squatting 300 kilos and you weigh 60 kgs and you've never squatted in your life. Probably not going to happen. But you know what, maybe there's a chance. But what we're trying to develop here is like, I don't know if you can really sense this for yourself. It's kind of like an instinctual thing. You're probably not going to win. Okay, it's fair enough. But you need like, it's really weird how this like inspiration or this mindset works. You just have to like at least have that like spark in your eye that you fucking can. Maybe you can. Maybe he fucks up. Maybe this 300 kilo weight just becomes like a feather. Who the fuck knows? But the point is that you have to actually like um you just have to believe it somehow. Just find a way to trick yourself, or better yet, don't trick yourself. Just actually believe it. It's the best thing. What did I do wrong? Set an expectation that I had to win. This is really interesting for me because, like, um, let me think about that. Yeah, I always like set an expectation that I have to do better than I am, and that's to my own psychology. It's like I'm trying to set this expectation to win because I have like something to prove. But then you have to ask yourself like, why am I trying to prove something? Is it because I don't feel like confident in myself that I have to win the game to prove that I'm like valuable or something like this? Actually, that's like a big part of like why I do what I do that I do. And it's like, what's really nice about that is you have to understand like your own psychology is like, why are you playing? Why are you so desperate to win? Like, it's funny. I'm like talking to you guys, but I'm actually like talking to myself when I say that. Um, but the thing is, there's a couple of, when we look further beyond that, it's like in my particular case, I came from Australia to play in the league to only exclusively play Quake, and now we can start to see like why I might start to develop that mindset, and it's like, well, how can you like alleviate the pressure? Sometimes pressure is good, but there is like a moments where you have to build up your capacity for that pressure. I would definitely say that I did not do that right, but at the same time, you know, I barely made it every single one of those times, and if I had failed, I would have gone back to Australia. But that doesn't mean that I would have stopped. It just meant that I would have kept doing something else, or I would have tried again. But it's like, you know, and try to anticipate as much as you can how you're actually going to uh, manage your life if you're wanting to get better, and how you're able to like spend the time. Maybe you are going to spend time after you finish work for a couple hours a day to play the game. Just find a way. Yeah, it's funny because like try not to. There's always going to be the excuses, but at the end of the day, it's hard to say, but no one gives a fuck. You really just find a way, find a solution. Everyone cares about the results. No one cares about how you did it. Just don't cheat. That's it. um, oh, okay. And the other thing that I did wrong was like I was believed that I was like better than my opponents. Again, this is like more of a psychological thing for me. Like, why I'm always trying to maybe oppress my opponent more than I should. Um, but you have to understand it's like if when you pros and cons of doing this. Pros is that you actually like play more aggressive. You're kind of like really adding space to the game. The cons of this though is like let's say your opponent just like plays really good or it doesn't go to your expectation. All of a sudden your mind you spend so much time believing something that it doesn't happen and now your mind is like trying to scramble together of like what is reality here. I mean, I've already had that a couple times now where I've set myself the expectation of what I need to do and didn't really allow for space of like possibly losing the game that I didn't like I gave myself less of a chance because I pushed myself so hard. Pros and cons. I mean, I would say balanced mindset, going with a plan to win, but just kind of like you have to be relaxed. So I would say like this. Um, okay, the next one is goal setting. What did I do right? Tried to push myself as hard as I could each stage. Tried to always like, number one, even though I didn't necessarily have the experience or the hours in the game just yet. It was always you have to always set the target that high. And if you guys are interested, I'll give you a quick story. Like I remember I played Stage 4 Finals, Season 1 against Sib, and I put so much effort into just winning the game, just winning that game, that when I played Dramas, I literally couldn't care. It's like so strange why that happened, but it's because I spent so much time developing this story that I just needed to win this game and I was safe that I didn't even like consider that extra bit. And by the time it was like time for me to consider that, I just couldn't do it. Like maybe I could try to find my way to convince myself, but there's even an added element of like the more time you spend like developing a mindset, you're gonna like reinforce the same ideas. That's why you have to really make sure that you're reinforcing the right ideas. Um, Sorry, I kind of rambled there a bit too, but I hope you guys can kind of like understand how that makes sense. Um, okay, and this is a big one, and we're almost finished, guys. Not setting the tone for each stage and moment, just playing my heart out until I'm exhausted. So yeah, I think you can even just look at my face by that, like when I say that, like what type of reaction I'm looking for there, and it's like you have to really set yourself up what you're trying to achieve at different moments. It really is like peak performance at different times. Um, if you just like, I don't know why I do this personally for me, but I just like I said, I just play a lot and then like try to manage myself as best as I can. But what you really should try to do is understand how many hours you need to play and understand like what's going on in your personal life to try and like peak performance for Sunday. All this practice, none of that matters. I even know some players that don't play at all, but the fact that they can like peak performance in their one moment and win their match, it's all that really matters. Again, it's not about we're not trying to make excuses. We're just trying to get this one result in this moment. Um, so really think about that. I need to think about that. Um, okay, and guys, the last thing I wanted to say is like there is no right answer. It's simply what we choose to do, see the reaction, and adapt. So, what I mean by that is like, I've just said all these things in this video. You might not do any of these things. I'm just like sharing like what happened, what's happening with me. But even in your own situation, just accept everything you've ever done, what you're going to do, and how you're going to move from this position. Um, because it's the fastest way you're going to do it. Again, sorry, I've kind of rambled there a little bit, but just like just pick something. If you just pick what you think is right, instinctually, I've said all these different things about what I think is right and wrong, but none of these really matter actually. It's really about what you believe and what result you're trying to look for. Um, and so, just like if you think you need a better railgun to improve your game, get a better railgun. But then, if you slowly begin to realize that the railgun is not what you needed to improve and it was actually something else, then adapt to that. It's like slowly kind of build these assets to yourself until you kind of create a picture which says, um, okay, this is what I believe to be true. And you'd be surprised that like it's better to just believe what you believe rather than like trying to just pick up on other people's beliefs. Because again, like I said before, if you fail confidently, there's actually a chance you'll succeed. So yeah, just try that. Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed watching. I hope it wasn't too rambly. I like doing videos more like this because I think that, well, partially perhaps because of laziness, but I think it comes out nicer. I think it's a bit more fluid when I talk in notes like this. So, anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hope I don't lose to effortless this week, and we'll see you boys soon. Okay, see ya.